Just touch it with it and eat it.
Sri Radha Krishna Bhogavna Sam Kanda Radha Kanda Vrindavan Dham ki jai, Navadip Dham ki jai, Ganga Mai ki jai, Jamuna Mai ki jai, Dwarka Dham ki jai, Swami Bhakti ki jai, all glories to the all glories to the Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Please accept my respectful obeisances and glories to his confounder Charles Divine English, the Prabhupada.
All glories to Prabhupada.
Yeah.
So we can start, eh?
Yeah.
Om Jnana Tamredasya Jnanan Jnanasalakaya Chakshuramalitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manovistam Snapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yukta Padakamalam Sri Gurum Vaishnavamsya Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragunastam Vitam Tam Sanjivam Salvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakam Vitam Scha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishnaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Tirtha Swami iti namini Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Ashri Tadmane Sri Gaura Karuna Shakti Bhakti Tirtha iti namini Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishnaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami iti namini Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvise Sasunyavadi Pasachade Satarine Panchakalpatarabhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Ivacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Gam karoti vachalam pangum lagayete grim yat karipatamahan vande Shri Guru Dina Taranam Paramanam Madhavam Sri Chaitanya Ishwaram Akanda Mandalakram Yaptayina Chara Charam Tatpadam Dashitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Narayana Namaskritya Narachaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jaya Mudirayat Nashtaprayashva Bhadresu Nityam Bhagavatam Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamasloke Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. My distance is not opening. Wrong with my anyway, how to move on. So everyone is welcome to today's session. We are treating chapter 22 of the third canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Marriage of Kadarmi Muni and Devahuti. And I think we went up to text, is it 13 or 14?
14.
Text 14.
Yes.
Yeah, so we ended up on text 14. So we are going to text 15 now. So 15 says,
Srivas, who are passionate by nature,
15 says, Rishi Rovacha, Badam Ududu Karmoham, Aprata Chatava Maja, Avayo Anurupo Sau, Adio Vaivahiko Vidi. Translation. The great sage replied, certainly I have a desire to marry, and your daughter has not yet married or given her word to anyone. Therefore, our marriage, according to Vedic system, can take place. And the slide says, essential considerations before accepting a girl in marriage. There are many considerations by Kadarma Muni before accepting the daughter of Swayambhuva Manu. Most important is that Devahuti had first of all fixed her mind on marrying him. She did not choose to have any other man as her husband. That is a great consideration because female psychology dictates that when a woman offers her heart to a man for the first time, it is very difficult for her to take it back. Also, she had not married before. She was a virgin girl. Then we have the second slide saying the different types of marriages. There are different kinds of marriages of which the first class marriage is held by inviting a suitable bridegroom for the daughter and giving her in charity, well-dressed and well-decorated with ornaments, along with the dowry, according to the means of the father. There are other kinds of marriages such as Gandharva marriage and marriage by love, which are also accepted as marriage. Even if one is forcibly kidnapped and later on accepted as a wife, that is also accepted. So I think we already looked at this last week when I listed the 8 types of marriages. Brahma Vivaha, Girsha Vivaha, Prajapatya Vivaha, Daiva Vivaha, Gandhava Vivaha, Asura Vivaha, Rakshasa Vivaha, and Paischa Vivaha. Brahma Vivaha is a good man or a man of good qualities and from a good family is asked to come and receive the hand of a damsel. And so he said this kind of marriage gives the man prosperity. When the father of the girl invites the boy, he sees the boy suitable. The boy comes from a good family, the boy has a good qualities, good character, and the girl is handed over to him. He says this kind of marriage brings prosperity to the husband. Then we have Girsha. After getting a couple of cows from the bridegroom, the bride is given to him. That is, they accept dowry from the parents of the bridegroom, the man. But that is not considered a first class because it's more or less like selling your daughter in exchange of cows. Then the third type is the Prajapatya. A virgin girl is given to the man who had requested for her hand as a duty. When the man approaches the parents, or the parents of the man approaches the parents of the girl and requests for the hand of that girl, that is described as a virgin girl, of course, that is described as Prajapatya. Then we have Daiva. A virgin girl is offered to the master who is engaged in performing sacrifice. Sometimes in sacrificial performances, a virgin girl is needed. He has to carry the kumba, he has to carry the pot. Only virgin girls are allowed to carry those sacrificial pots. A girl who has never known a man. So when such a girl is offered to the priest, she is not taken back. She becomes the wife of the priest. And that is called Daiva or divine marriage. Daiva Vivaha. Then we have Gandharva Vivaha, a marriage between a man and a woman with equal love for each other. I can say that is the type of marriages we practice these days. But actually, it's not exactly Gandharva because there is no equal love. It says equal love. That means the man loves the woman as much as the woman loves the man. And so if there is such love, there shouldn't be any divorce. But there are other considerations. As we all know, considerations of family wealth, how much wealth is coming in, either from the man's side or from the woman's side, the social status of the man or the woman. So many considerations are put together these days before marriages are contracted. And so it's not purely Gandharva Vivaha. Gandharva Vivaha means both man and woman must exhibit equal amount of love for each other. Then it's described as Gandharva Vivaha. Then we have Asura Vivaha, giving money in return for damsels and marrying her. This is a mean type of marriage. In other words, it's like purchasing the wife. And there are some traditions, some cultures where these things are still happening right here in Ghana. You have to pay a huge sum of money. If you don't have cows, you don't have money, you don't dream of marrying. And so this is described as Asuric. It's Asura Vivaha. It's demonic. When you sell your daughter, collect money. Actually, it said there is a special hell for such parents who sell their daughters. When they leave this world, it's considered a sin. So when they leave this world, Yamaraj will ensure that they are sent to a particular hell to pay for it, to suffer the consequences of selling their daughter away. Then we have Rakshasa, where the girl is carried away by force. And this is very common in the villages, even here in Ghana. They will go and pretend talking to the girl before she realizes they've carried her off. And then they send a message back to the parents that we are marrying your daughter. Kshatriyas, that is the Kshatriya style. Kshatriya style is they carry away the woman by force. And then the other suitors will wage war and they will fight. And whoever emerges victorious becomes the husband. That is Rakshasa marriage. Then we have the Paischa marriage. Paischa Vivaha is when the girl is asleep or the girl is unconscious. And then they carry her away and then take her as a wife. So these are the different types of marriages that have been discussed here. The previous slide talks about the essential considerations before accepting a girl in marriage. So there are many considerations before accepting before accepting a woman or a girl as a wife. But most important amongst them is that she had fixed her mind on Kadarma Muni. He has fixed her mind on the husband to be. He has already selected that person she wants to marry. So in this way, Kadarma Muni accepted it as a first-class way of marriage because the father was willing and the daughter was qualified. And second point is that she had never been married before. So in contracting marriages, these are serious considerations. That a girl should not have any other person in her mind. She should not have any competing suitor in her mind. And the girl should not have married before. Because if the girl has somebody in her mind, then the marriage will not last. She'll still be thinking of that person, even though he is now living with the husband. If she has a second person in her mind, her attention will be divided. The same way, if she has married before, she will begin to compare the previous marriage with the current marriage. And whatever is lacking in the current marriage as compared to the previous marriage will be the cause of quarrels in the family. It will be the cause of disunity. It will be the cause of trouble in the marriage because once you start comparing, similarly, if a man is also married before marrying another woman, there's always bound to be comparisons. Oh, my previous wife used to treat me like this. My previous wife used to do like this. My previous wife. So once you start making comparisons, then it's bound to be trouble. So therefore, principal consideration when it comes to marriage, accepting a woman or a man, is that she must not have been married before. She has no experience of any other man in her life. Then she will be fully dedicated or devoted to the husband when she gets married. But many of the divorces we are experiencing today is simply due to the fact that both boys and girls, they have had multiple sex partners, or sometimes even multiple marriages. So when one is engaged in multiple marriages or multiple sex partners, you cannot expect anything good, because there's always bound to be comparison. Because how the other boys behave or how the other girls behave may not be exactly the way the wife is behaving or the husband is behaving. And that will be a cause of dishonesty, a cause of unchastity, a cause of unloyalty, a cause for unfaithfulness in marriage. And that is a cause of divorce in many, many cases. So therefore, here it is mentioned that these two considerations are important. She must fix her mind on the man, no other competing suitor in her heart, and she must not have been married before. Then the marriage is considered auspicious. So Kandharma Muni accepted this as first class because the girl was willing, and the father was willing, and the daughter was qualified. She had never offered her heart to anyone else. So these are important considerations when it comes to marriage. Because in Kali Yuga, it will be very difficult, especially in the Western world or countries or societies that follow the Western example. You cannot find a qualified girl because they have already fixed their minds on so many other men before coming to the final person or the final man you want to settle down with. So in Vedic times, and to some degree is still practiced in India. And so we see that because of this principle, because of these considerations, marriage lasted in Vedic times, and we still experience so even in India today. Text 16, or 16 says, Karmasa buyam naradevatesya putriya samananya vidau pratitaha kaivate tanayam nadriyataha swayaiva katya sripitim iva sriyam. Translation: let your daughter's desire for marriage, which is recognized in the Vedic scriptures, be fulfilled. Who will not accept her hand? She is so beautiful that by her bodily luster alone, she excels the beauty of her ornaments. And the slide says, giving a daughter in charity to a suitable son-in-law is considered a pious act. As stated in the Vedic scriptures, The first class process is to call the bridegroom to the home of the bride and hand her to him in charity with a dowry of necessary ornaments, gold, furniture, and other household paraphernalia. This form of marriage is prevalent among high-class Hindus even today, and is declared in the Shastras to confer great religious merit on the bride's father. To give a daughter in charity to a suitable son-in-law is considered to be one of the pious activities of a householder. So, offering one's daughter in charity to a suitable, qualified son-in-law is considered one of the greatest pious activities for a householder. So even in India today, this principle is still there. It's still very much observed. I think recently, one of the richest men in India, what do they call them? The Ambani family. The Ambani family. Ambani is the richest man in India at the moment, worth billions of dollars. So the Ambani family, the daughter, I think their only daughter, got married, and His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj was invited to that wedding because one of our devotees has some relationship with the Ambani family, or maybe one of the family members of the Ambanis is related to one of our very influential devotees. I think Krishna Chandra, who is a big time businessman, but one of the main supporters of our Chopati temple. So through him, they arranged, and Radhanath Maharaj was at the wedding. And the opulence that was displayed at that wedding, because if the richest man in the country is going to have his daughter married, you can imagine what is going to happen. A 3-story house, huge house, is part of the bride price. A bank account, huge bank account, is open in the name of the bride and the husband. Heavy duty vehicles, and even businesses. The man gives some business to the daughter and the husband as a contribution to their marriage, as a gift to their marriage. So I'm in a class, I'm in a class right now. Hare Krishna, I'm in class right now. We'll talk later. Hare Krishna. So the devotees who attended that wedding, and who went with Maharaj, one of the driver of Maharaj was telling me when I was in Chopati recently, and then we're flying from Mumbai to Delhi. So Maharaj's driver was to drop us at the airport from the Radha Gopinath temple. So he passed by, there's a new highway they've created in the sea in Mumbai. And he passes by the house Ambani gave to the daughters, gave to the husband of his daughter at the wedding. And that's where the wedding took place. The wedding took place in the house the father donated to the daughter and the husband. So the driver who took Maharaj for that program, we drove past the house and he stopped and said, this is the Ambani's gift to his son-in-law as part of the bride price. Huge house, just facing the sea. So they can get very good breeze from the sea. Of course, there is a project, a huge project in Thane, the eastern part of Mumbai. Somebody donated some 4 acres of land there many years back for building a GBC college. So now I understand this Ambani, because Maharaj attended the wedding, graced the wedding. He was so happy. He asked Maharaj, that what can I do for you? Any service I can do for you? If a rich man asks a question, you can imagine. And Maharaj said, well, I have some 4 acres of land in Thane. I want to develop a community. I want a first-class temple. I want classrooms. I want a campus for learning. And this rich man said, all right, done. Said, consider it is done. So they've already started working on the project. He has given money and they already started the project. Building a first-class temple on the 4-acre land. Then they're going to have some ashrams, some hostel facilities and classroom facilities for maybe academic purposes. And of course, with a beautiful temple, people can also come. So that is the type of preaching that Radharani Maharaj is doing in Bombay. And once he has got hold of this, the richest man in India, he will bring other rich people on board. Like that. So anyway, that's just a side issue, but having offered such a great dowry prize, bride prize, there's no question of divorce. There's no question. It's out of the question. So the Vedic system is the best way for keeping marriages together, for keeping man and woman together, for discouraging divorce. So here it said that this form of marriage is prevalent among higher class Hindus, whereby the bridegroom is invited and the daughter handed over in charity with a colossal dowry of ornaments, gold, furniture, household paraphernalia, and even some places, businesses. So this is the type of marriages that takes place in high-class Hindus in India today, because it confers great merit on the father of the girl. And there are other examples in when Devaki was getting married to Vasudeva. So much, if you read in the Krishna book, so many horses, so many elephants, chariots decorated with gold were sent by Devaka to Vasudeva, with 200 young maidservants So the Asian system of marriage is actually very glorious, because that marriage would immediately make the family very stable. It stabilizes the marriage. So I don't know whether we can, as a society, begin to think of, doing something, even in a small way, that our daughters, when they are getting married, we can give something as a gift to the bridegroom, because that would solidify the marriage. If you receive support from your father-in-law, it'll be very difficult for you to, maltreat a woman, sack her from the house, and think of divorce, because you are indebted. They have supported you in the marriage. They have given you some capital to begin your life with. So there's no question at any time thinking of divorcing the woman. So maybe in our ISKCON, we should also begin to think of this system. We may not be able to match up to such huge donations and gifts, dowry, but at least there should be a gesture. The gesture is enough. Something is given to support the new couple. If there are any questions, we can take them. If there are no questions, we move ahead.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
I just have my own comments. Our system of marriage, maybe in Africa or in Nigeria or from a Yoruba tribe I came from, is exactly opposite what we are describing according to the Vedic culture. And this, our own system, when we look at it, it's a marriage is very difficult for any marriage to survive, because first of all, when to get married, you have to pay dowry, and the family of the bride, they would prefer someone who is rich to give their daughter. And if it happens that the bridegroom will be husband is not so rich, even though the bride might be connected in terms of love, the family of the bride, they will only wait for some time until the bridegroom fails, because they are not going to have any support for him. And at the end of the day, they will now say that the bridegroom is not taking good care of their daughter, and now form a basis for the marriage to collapse. So, it's then another thing also, during the process of the marriage, the most elderly person in the family of the bridegroom, you have to prostrate to the family of the wife to be. And in such a situation, once you have the wife entered into the family or marriage, then it's going to be on top of the whole family. So it should be very difficult to be controlled by the husband as well as the family of the bridegroom. So all these conditions make our marriage very shaky and not very pleasant. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So that is our problem. Actually, it's not only in Yoruba land, but it's all over. There's a West Africa. It's all over West Africa. The same culture is all over West Africa, because what you are describing may not be exactly the same, but every marriage, you have to, you, the bridegroom, you have to satisfy the family members of the woman. If you cannot satisfy them, they will not allow. Unless you just meet a woman on the street and you just marry on the street. Prabhupada call it dog's marriage. You meet a woman on the street, you become friends on the street, you get married on the street, and then you also divorce on the street. Like that. But if you want to go through the proper way, you go to the parents. As soon as you show your face, you have to prove you're worthy of marrying their daughter. Everybody expects something from you, from the father to the mother to the brothers to the sisters, everyone. And if you cannot, they will start discouraging the girl. That why do you want to marry such a poor person? And as you are saying, they may even allow her to marry you because they are getting some little milk from your end. But after that, they will discourage the woman from staying with you so they can offer her to a more richer family. Then they turn around and say, marriages are not stable. They turn around and say there is rampant divorce because they have already created the room for divorce. And so like those things you're talking about, the head of the family of the boy prostrating before the family of the woman. All these cultural things, they don't go very well because if the head of the boy's family prostrates before the family of the girl, that means you take a subordinate position. And this girl, she comes to your house, she wants to ride on everybody's head. And so things won't work. So all of these things, they have to be looked into if we really want to promote lasting marriages. But there are some people who are conservatives. They don't want anything to change. They want to continue with the status quo. They want things to remain the same. So that's the problem. But I think as a society, we have to think of how we can create a better system by which we can stabilize our marriages as a society, irrespective of the cultural milieu, the cultural environment that we find ourselves in. We have to create a system that supports marriages and discourages divorce. We have to create that. Anyway, so that is the point. We move on, unless there's a point, we move on to text 17.
Yes, Maharaj.
Yeah.
Please accept my humble obeisances at your name. Yeah, there's a point I've heard and have seen vivid examples of it that I want you to clear for me.
Okay.
I learned in India, once the girl is married, and then the husband leaves the body, no matter what the age, in India, she will no more get the chance of remarrying again. And I've seen that when I was in Cotonou, of a very young, beautiful Indian lady, girl, that they say normal, the widows, they wear white.
Yeah.
So this young Indian lady girl lost their young husband, and for all my stay there, she had been in white. Now we had one also in the Burkina Faso who was supporting the temple very nicely, and left also at a very young age. So does it mean that the ladies are going to remain like that without any marriage anymore?
Well, that is the principle, but if they also find some young person who has lost their wife, yeah, they can work it out. If a woman who has lost her husband at a young age, he finds a man who has also lost their wife at a young age, they can consider coming together because they have the same experience. But for a man who has not married before, going to marry a woman who has married and the husband has died, that is not possible. No, the other way around. A woman who has married before, the husband died and she's young, then she's going to get married to a man who has not married at all before. It's not possible. Those are the principles we're discussing here. The two principles. First, she must have the guy in her heart, and second, she must not have been married before. Yeah, so this is the principle, but there are exemptions. Definitely, there are exemptions. India is also following the West to some degree. There are some people that they are a minority anyway. It's a minority. But there are some people who, when the wife dies, they marry again, or the husband dies, they marry again. There are people like that, or even they divorce their wife and they take another wife. And there are people like that also, but that is not a standard. A standard culture is that you should stay with your wife from beginning to end, unless, of course, you take sannyas, then that is understood. So it's true.
That breaking away from the system, is it not coming from the intermixture of culture, Western culture now penetrating Indian culture?
Exactly, that's it. Because the Western influence, due to Western influence, they are no more, some of them are no more adhering to their traditional culture. That is the problem. Yeah. So we go to text 17.
Thank you very much, Maharaj.
Somebody like to read 17?
Okay, then let me take it. Yam ham ya priste wanada angry shobam vikrida kanduka vivalakshin vivajvasu nya patata swada vimanat vilokya samoha vimuda chetaha. Translation: I've heard that Vijayvasu, the great Gandharva, his mind stupefied with infatuation, fell from his airplane after seeing your daughter playing with a ball on the roof of the palace, for she was indeed beautiful, with her tinkling ankle bells and her eyes moving to and fro. Then the stride. The Gandharva, Vijayvasu, while flying in the sky, could see Devahuti playing ball on the roof of the palace. Ball playing was also current, but aristocratic girls would not play in the public place. Ball playing and other such pleasures were not meant for ordinary women and girls. Only princesses like Devahuti could indulge in such sports. It is described here that she was seen from the flying airplane. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So, the beauty, the incomparable beauty of Devahuti is depicted in this verse. Devahuti was so beautiful that even demigods were attracted to her beauty. An example is given here. Vishwavasu, it's a Gandharva. Vishwavasu was flying in his airplane, over the palace of Swayambhuva Manu. And there, Devahuti was playing with a ball. And from the aircraft, Vishwavasu could see the beauty of Devahuti. And he was so much absorbed in the beauty of Devahuti that there was an accident. He fell out of the plane. He fell out of the plane and crashed. So that is why it is mentioned here, Swat Vimanat. Swat Vimanat means from his own airplane, his private jet. Vishwavasu was flying in his private jet, and he spotted this beautiful girl on top of the palace playing football. And Vishwavasu, he fell out of his plane. So that indicates that Devahuti's beauty was so great that it attracted the mind of a Gandharva. In fact, I think in the previous verse, it is said that the ornaments on her body did not decorate her. She was so beautiful that the ornaments were glorified. If you look at the previous verse, verse 16, it says, let your daughter's desire for marriage, which is recognized in the Vedic scriptures, be fulfilled. Who will not accept her hand? She is so beautiful that by her bodily luster alone, she excels the beauty of her ornaments. So in other words, the ornaments are not decorating her. The ornaments are borrowing their beauty from Devahuti. So that is the standard of beauty of Devahuti. And therefore here, Kandarma Muni is telling the father, telling Swayambhuva Manu, that your daughter is so beautiful, so which man will not accept her? And I think the same thing is in the text 18. If you go to text 18, text 18 says the same thing. Tampratayatim lalana lalamam asevita sri charanai adrishtam vatsam mano uchapada swasaram ko nanu manyeta buddho bhiyatam. What wise man would not welcome her? The very ornament of womanhood, the beloved daughter of Swayambhuva Manu, and the sister of Uttanapad. Those who have not worshipped the gracious feet of the goddess of fortune cannot even perceive her. Yet, she has come of her own accord to seek my hand. And the slide says, the ornaments of the ornamented beautiful girls. Devahuti was actually the ornament of all ornamented beautiful girls. A girl becomes beautiful by putting on ornaments on her body. But Devahuti was more beautiful than the ornaments. She was considered the ornament of the ornamented beautiful girls. Demigods and Gandharvas were attracted by her beauty. Kandarma Muni, although a great sage, was not a denizen of the heavenly planets. But it is mentioned in the previous verse that Vishwavasu, who came from heaven, was also attracted by the beauty of Devahuti. Therefore, Kandarma Muni is very fortunate. Kandarma Muni considers himself a lucky man that this gift of excellence, this special gift, this beauty of beauties has come on her own accord. He did not go looking for it. He did not make any effort. The gift has come of its own accord. Which wise man? So what wise man will not welcome her? So Devahuti is described here as the ornament or the ornamented beautiful girls. That means she's the beauty of all beauties. What we will call today a beauty queen. She's a beauty queen. And therefore, which man will resist marrying such a beautiful woman? So in other words, Kandarma Muni has accepted her. Kandarma Muni has embraced, he's ready to marry her. It is often said that when a man begins to praise a woman, then we should understand that he's attracted, and vice versa also. When a woman begins to praise a man, it means that he's also attracted. So therefore, since the Kandarma Muni is glorifying Devahuti in this choice poetry, we can understand that he has become attracted to Devahuti, and so the marriage will take place. Somebody like to read 19?
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna, go ahead.
Atobhadsye samayena sadhum yavatejo bilbiyat atmano mehe ato dharma parama amsya amukyam sukla proktam bahumanye vim srahan. Therefore, I shall accept this shade girl as my wife on the condition that after she bears semen from my body, I shall accept the life of devotion as service accepted by the most perfect human beings. That process was described by Lord Vishnu. It is free from envy.
Right.
The purpose of marriage is to beget two types children. Kandarma Muni desired to beget a child who would be a ray of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One should beget a child who can perform the duties of Vishnu. Otherwise, there is no need to produce children. There are two kinds of children born of good fathers. One is educated in Krishna consciousness so that he can be delivered from the clutches of Maya in that very life. And the other is a ray of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and teaches the world the ultimate goal of life. Hare Krishna.
There's one more slide on the same.
Future plans of Kandarma Muni. After fulfilling the responsibility to produce a nice child, one should take sannyas and engage in the professional Paramahamsa stage. Paramahamsa refers to the most highly elevated professional stage of life. There are four stages within science life, and Paramahamsa is the highest order. The Paramahamsa is free from envy. In other stages, even in the outsider stage of life, there is competition and envy. But since the activities of the human being in the Paramahamsa stage are completely engaged in Krishna consciousness or devotional service, there is no scope for envy.
Thank you. So the first slide says the purpose of marriage is to beget two types of children. And Srila Prabhupada mentions that one child is to educate in Krishna consciousness so that he can be delivered from the clutches of Maya in this very lifetime. And the other type is a ray of Vishnu, who teaches the world the ultimate goal of life. So that is the goal of the householder. A householder should want to beget good children that can be educated in Krishna consciousness, that can be trained in Krishna consciousness, so that in this very lifetime, they can go back home to the spiritual world. And even better still is to invoke a ray of Vishnu. A ray of Vishnu means either a Satyavesha avatar, empowered living entity, or sometimes the Lord himself appears in the material world as a son of a devotee. And such a person, his business is to enlighten the world. So these are the two types of children that a grihastha must be praying for. We can see the case of Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur. Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur, he prayed for a ray of Vishnu. He prayed for a ray of Vishnu. And as a result, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, Bimal Prasad, took birth in his family. And because Bimal Prasad is a ray of Vishnu, he was able to revolutionize the Gaudiya teachings, the philosophy and practice of the Gaudiya Vaishnava teachings. So that should be the plan, the desire of our Krishna conscious householders, to attract a very advanced soul into this world so that he can bring about a revolution in consciousness. So in the case of Kadarma Muni, he actually brought in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Kapila Dev. Kapila Dev became the son of Kadarma Muni, and Kapila Dev is considered an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he taught the theistic Sankhya philosophy. So that is the benefit of bringing in exalted souls. Srila Prabhupada is another example of bringing in an exalted soul. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta, very exalted soul. Srila Prabhupada, very exalted soul. And because they are such exalted souls from the spiritual sky, they have been able to do what they have done. They're able to spread the holy names of Krishna across the globe. They're able to translate the Vedic scriptures into a readable language, modern language, for the benefit of the world. They're able to establish this Krishna consciousness in a very wonderful way for the benefit of the world. So, if one is able to bring into this world such children, the family benefits, but the world also benefits. So it's not only the family that benefits, the whole world benefits when such children are born. So human life is especially meant for complete devotion to the service of the Supreme Lord. And after fulfilling that condition of service, after fulfilling that responsibility, one is to produce a very elevated child that can perpetuate the teachings and practice of Krishna consciousness. And then at the end of life, one can then take up this sannyas platform, sannyas order that is described here, the Paramahamsa stage. So Kadarma Muni, he first of all brought forth 9 daughters, 9 beautiful daughters, that became the wives of the 9 sages. And then he was even ready to depart when Devahuti said, "My dear husband, you have not given me abhaya, you have not given me fearlessness, because you have not given me spiritual knowledge that will take away fear from my heart. So before you leave, you should give me somebody who would award me fearlessness." And Kadarma Muni understood, so he gave a son to Devahuti, and that son happened to be incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so after he left to take the sannyas and be absorbed in the meditation, Kapila Dev stayed with the mother and gave the mother fearlessness. He educated the mother spiritually and gave her fearlessness. So the Grihastha Ashram is actually an opportunity to benefit the world through the process of sex life. The Grihastha is to invite into this world first-class children who will take up the preaching mission and deliver the world from the clutches of Maya. That should be the desire of every Grihastha, how to attract one very powerful soul who can change the face of the world. And we have 2, 3, 4, 5, what to speak of 10 Prabhupads. This world would definitely change. Just see the effect of one soul, Srila Prabhupada. So if the Grihasthas, they can, by their devotion, by their spiritual practices, they can bring in such souls, That would be a great service to humanity. And then, because he is talking about the Paramahamsa stage. So when one has fulfilled his household grihastha ashram duties, one can now take sannyas and detach himself from the family and just travel freely without any cares. So Kadarma Muni, after he had fulfilled the wife's desire by giving him a son, with the permission of his son, he left home and never returned. And he adopted the sannyas life, became a Paramahamsa, and that is how he left the world. So once our responsibilities are taken care of, the next stage is to retire, renounce, and take the sannyas order, Paramahamsa order, and detach oneself from the world completely. So Kadarma Muni is teaching by his own example. Actually, it is often said that Kadarma Muni and his wife, they are the example of a perfect grihastha life. Kadarma Muni was a Mahayogi. He was a lifetime, he was a brahmachari until he got married. He was a brahmachari. He did not know any woman. And then the Vahuti also, until she got married, she was a virgin. And then by the arrangement of Lord Vishnu, they were brought together as a couple. And then even when they got married, they did not immediately resort to sex life. No. Kadarma Muni still continued with his austerities, and the Vahuti had to follow suit. You shall see that in the preceding verses, and maybe the next chapter. The Vahuti had to follow the husband, performing austerity. She became so emancipated because she was living the forest life. So then it got to a point that Kadarma Muni himself was feeling sorry for his wife, considering the fact that she's a princess. And now she was in such a deplorable situation. He decided to give her attention. And then he created the aircraft, aerial mansion, created a lake, and she was bathed in that lake to recover herself with 1,000 celestial ladies taking care of her. And then they went around touring the whole universe. And then after they finished touring the whole universe, then they came back, and then she begot nine daughters for Kadarma Muni, and Brahma came to marry them off to the 9 sages. Then again, a boy was born to take care of the mother, and then Kadarma Muni left home. So we can see that he went through all the stages of life: brahmacharya life, grihastha life, vanaprastha, and sannyas. So it is said that Kadarma Muni and the Vahuti are the best examples of brahmacharya, brahmacharini, grihastha life, and vanaprastha and sannyas. So the topic this unit we are discussing is actually meant to inspire grihastas to lead such an exemplary life of Kadarma Muni and Devahuti. So text 20. I think somebody can read 20. Somebody was trying to read along with Sanika Prabhu. So I think, is it Madhuvan Prabhu? Hare Krishna. Okay, go ahead.
Yato Baba Vishwam Idam Vichitram Samsasyati Yatra Chavibhat Tati Prajapatinam Pati Isamayam Param Pranmanam Bhagavam Anantaha. Translation: the highest authority for one is to unlimited supreme personality of Godhead, from whom this wonderful creation emanates, and from whom its sustenance and dissolution rests. He is the origin of all Prajapatis, the personality meant to produce living entities in this world.
And read the slide.
Marrying and begotten a child is considered to
Liquidate
one's debt to the family in which one is born. There is many debts which are imposed upon a child just after his birth. There are debts to the family in which one is born, debts to the demigods, debts to the Peters, debts to the Rishis, etc. But if someone engaged only in the service of the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead, who is actually worshipable, then even without trying to liquidate other debts, one becomes free from all obligations. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So liquidating the debt to one's family. So it is said that one is indebted. Once you take birth in this material world, you are indebted. You are indebted to you are indebted to demigods, you are indebted to the forefathers, the Peters, you are indebted to the Rishis, you are indebted to other living beings. Actually, they said there are 5 debts. You are indebted to the family. You came from a family tradition, family heritage. So you are indebted to that family heritage. Because if the family heritage is not there, how can you make your appearance? So once you've taken birth in that family, you owe them a debt, and that you must settle. And how do you settle that debt? By also bringing forth children, by perpetuating the heritage, the family heritage. And that is why marriage is encouraged. By marrying, one brings forth children, and by bringing forth children, it is said that you are paying off your debt to the family tradition. Then the demigods. The demigods are supplying all the necessities of life. They give us air, they give us sunshine, they give us rains, they give us vegetation, they give us many things that sustain this life. So we are also indebted to them. And therefore, we have to pay the debt to the demigods. And then we owe the Peters, the forefathers. The forefathers, they have left this world and they're pretty low, and we are supposed to be performing shroud ceremony for their pleasure to liberate them, to extend their stay in the pretty loca. And so we owe them. Then we owe debts to the riches. Instead, the riches, they give us the scriptures, they give us directions, they show the path of yoga, tapasya, penances, by which we can make progress in spiritual life. So we also owe them. And then other living beings. We take service from human beings, we take service from animals, so we also owe them. So all these debts, once you take birth in this material world, at once, you have become a debtor. Once you take birth in this material world, you become a debtor. And so how do you pay this debt? How do you pay this debt? It is said the best way to pay this debt is to perform devotional service. Once you take to full surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and you perform devotional service for the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, immediately all your debts are paid. So devotional service is a solution to this, these debts that we are owing the different entities. There's a verse I can find. There's a verse that says that one who surrenders to the lotus feet of Mukunda, one who renders services to the lotus feet of the Lord, is immediately freed from all debts. So the best way to liquidate our debts to our family, to the demigods, to the riches, to other living beings, to the demigods, is to engage in Krishna consciousness. Jayati, Jayati, Pritivara Nasho Mukundam. All glories to Sri Mukunda, who offers liberation and frees one from the troubles on this earth. Prithvi means this earthly planet. And we surrender to the lotus feet of Mukunda, who will become free from the problems of this earth. Because Mukunda, he gives liberation. Mukunda frees everyone from this cycle of birth and death. He frees everyone from this debt that we have inherited by taking birth in this material world. Actually, everyone in this material world is a debtor. Once you appear from your mother's womb, you are indebted. And you have to pay this debt before your life ends. Otherwise, you have to come again. So part of the samsara, part of this cycle of birth and death, disease, old age, and death, is due to the fact that we have not paid the debt. So if you don't pay the debt, you have to come again and again. But with one stroke, engagement in the service of Mukunda, engagement in Krishna's service, one is no more indebted to all these different living entities. So the answer is we have to take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Text 21.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna, go ahead.
Maitreya Uvacha Ugradavanyam Eva Bhakti Asitu Asni Harabinda Nabam Yokai Gansita Subitena Bhaktina Situ Dube Eva Yaha. Translation. Sri Maitreya said, O great warrior, Vidura, the great sage Kadama said this much only, and then became silent, thinking of his worshipable Lord Vishnu, who has a little on his navel. As he silently smiled, his face captured the mind of Devahuti, who began to meditate upon the great sage. The slide. The smile of a pure devotee, captivating. This is the way of Krishna consciousness. Pure devotees are so absorbed in thoughts of Krishna that they have no other engagement. Although they may seem to think or act otherwise, they are always thinking of Krishna. The smile of such a Krishna conscious person is so attractive that simply by smiling, it wins so many admirers, disciples, and followers. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So, Smita Sobitena. Smita Sobitena means a smile, a silent smile. As he silently smiled, his face captured the moment of Devahuti, who began to meditate on the great sage.
Mute. It's so much noise.
When Kadarma Munis made these statements, when he finished glorifying his wife to be Devahuti, he fell silent. And thinking of his worshipable Lord, he smiled silently. He showed his teeth. And so he said that the smile of a devotee is very captivating, because they are absorbed in the thoughts of Krishna. When they smile, they actually bless everyone with a smile. It's a smile of bliss. It's a smile of love. And so the smile of a pure devotee actually relieves everyone of anxiety. And we see the devotees were always looking toward Srila Prabhupada for his gracious smile. And when the spiritual master is satisfied, is happy, and he smiles at the disciple, then the disciple considers his life successful. So Srila Prabhupada disciples, they work very hard just to gain Srila Prabhupada's transcendental smile. Because that smile is coming deep from within the heart of the pure devotee, whose relation is association with Krishna from within. So such a smile simply benedicts the world. And we also saw in our own case, Bhakti Tita Maharaj, his smile was so mesmerizing. If you were disturbed or worried, and Gurudev just smiles at you, immediately that smile will take away all your worries. So therefore, we can understand that this smile is not just a show of white teeth, but it's coming from the core, from the bottom of his heart. It's a reflection of his love for Krishna, of his blissful existence that he's showing in the form of a smile. So here he said the smile of such a Krishna conscious person is so attractive that simply by smiling, he wins so many admirers, disciples, and followers. And that is very true of many, many exalted souls. Their smile is not an ordinary smile. The smile is deeply connected with the amount of love they have for Krishna. And so that smile is attractive. That smile is inspiring. That smile elevates people. And so they become attracted to such a pure devotee. So text 22, there's no purpose, I'll just read it. It says, so nu gyatva vyavasitam mahisya duhitu sputam tasmai guna ganadhyaya dado tulyam praharsitaha. After having unmistakably known the decision of the queen as well as that of Devahuti, the emperor most gladly gave his daughter to the sage whose host of virtues was equaled by hers. So the girl, that's Devahuti, and the husband to be Kadramuni, it says their virtues were equal. That is what is called compatibility. When the husband to be and the wife to be, they are compatible. When their virtues are equal, then a very happy marriage will result from such a combination. 23 says, Satarupa Maharajin Paribharam Mahadanam Dampatyo Parihadat Pritya Bhushavasa Parichadam. Translation: Empress Shatarupa lovingly gave most valuable presents suitable for the occasion, such as jewelry, clothes, and household articles, in dowry to the bride and the bridegroom. So the wedding wear of dowry is slight. In this way, Kadarma Muni was married with full opulence to a qualified wife, and was endowed with the necessary paraphernalia for household life. In the very way of marriage, such a dowry is still given to the bridegroom by the father of the bride. Even in poverty-stricken India, there are marriages where hundreds and thousands of rupees are spent for a dowry. So, Shatarupa is the wife of Swayambhuva Manu. So it's described here as the empress. Emperor is the king and empress is the queen. So she lovingly gave most of the valuable presents, such as jewelry, clothes, household articles, as dowry to Kadarma Muni. So the dowry system is very important because it maintains the marriage. It binds the marriage. When the father of the wife, the father of the bride offers a handsome dowry to the man, that is the beginning of a solid foundation for a lasting marriage. In the first place, the husband will respect the wife because he knows that by marrying such a girl, the wealth has come into the house. Capital has come into the house. So by receiving such a support, he becomes indebted to the family of the girl. And so common sense or etiquette will not allow him to behave in an antagonistic way to the degree of initiating divorce. So therefore, the dowry system is the beginning of a solidified marriage. And therefore, we see that the Vedic system of marriage does not encourage divorce. And because the Hindus in India are still following the system, as mentioned here, their marriages, 95% of their marriages are secured. They do not experience divorce. So Prabhupada is mentioning here, even in a poverty-stricken place like India, there are marriages where hundreds and thousands of rupees are spent for a dowry. It is actually done just to save the marriage, just to protect the marriage. So it is something as an organization we should be considering how to implement something like this. Text 24 says, Pramatam duhitaram smarat sadrishaya gata vyataha upaguyacha bahubhyam otkanya matista sayaha. Thus, relief of his responsibility by handing over his daughter to a suitable man, Swayambhuva Manu, his mind agitated by feelings of separation, embraced his affectionate daughter with both his arms. The greatest anxiety of responsible parents. A father always remains in anxiety until, a father always remains in anxiety until he can hand over his grown-up daughter to a suitable boy. A father and mother's responsibility for children continues until they marry them to suitable spouses. When the father is able to perform that duty, he is relieved of his responsibility. So it's actually the duty of the father and the mother to ensure that their children obtain suitable spouses. The boys, they get suitable wives, and the girls get suitable husbands. When that is done, when all the children are married, then the responsibility of the parents is over. But so long as they are not married, then one still has a responsibility to make sure that they are married. So when the father is able to perform that duty, he is relieved of the responsibility. So here we see the verse says, thus relieved of the responsibility by handing over his daughter to a suitable man, so Vaibhava Manu, his mind agitated by feelings of separation, embraced his affectionate daughter with both his hands. So it is said that a man is attached to his daughter and a woman is attached to his son. Because genetically, the girl inherits the qualities of the father and the boy inherits the qualities of the mother. That is how the subtle science of gene transfer works. So it is said that if you want to marry a girl, you should study the character of the father, because whatever the character the father is putting up, those qualities the girl is going to inherit. And if you want to marry a man, you study the qualities of the mother. Whatever quality the mother is exhibiting, you will find them in the son. So there is attachment between daughters and their fathers, and there is attachment between boys and their mothers. It shouldn't be a surprise to us. If your boys are attached to their mother, it's natural. If the girls are attached to their father, it's natural. Because by nature's way, the girls inherit the qualities of the father, so they are attached to the father, and the boys inherit the qualities of the mother, so they are attached to the mother. So here we see that attachment is manifested here, as we shall see. It's already happening. So Vaibhava Manu embraces after he handed over his daughter to Kadarma Muni. He embraced the daughter with two arms. And then we see in the next verse, he's expressing his attachment. In the next verse 25, it says, Asak nuvam star viraham muncham baspa kalam muhur asenchat amba vatseti nitrudai dihutur shikaha. The emperor was unable to bear the separation of his daughter. Therefore, tears poured from his eyes again and again, drenching his daughter's head as he cried, "My dear mother, my dear daughter." And so the slide says, a woman is never independent. According to Manu Samhita, a woman is never independent. She must remain the property of the father while she is not married, and she must remain the property of the husband until she is elderly and has grown-up children of her own. In old age, when the husband has taken sannyas and left home, she remains the property of her sons. A woman is always dependent, either upon the father, husband, or elderly sons. So here, Vaibhava Manu is expressing his attachment to his daughter by shedding tears of separation. by wetting the daughter's head with the tears and crying out, "My dear mother, my dear daughter." So these are natural occurrences. The father's attachment for his daughters and the mother's attachment for his sons. So here we do not see Shatarupa embracing her daughter and saying this, but we rather see the king, he's embracing his daughter and making such statements. So that goes to confirm the Linga Purana. There's a Linga Purana that describes this transfer of genes from the father to the girl daughter and from the mother to the boy child. Somebody likes to read text 26 and 27.
Hare Krishna. All right.
Hare Krishna, go ahead.
Thank you. Amantreya Muni Varam Anu Jnata Sahanuga Prataste Ratam Aruhya Sabaya Swapuram Nepa Ubayo Rishi Kulyaya Saraswatia Surodasho Rishinam Upasantanam Pasyan Ashrama Sampada. Translation. After asking and obtaining the great sage's permission to leave, the monarch mounted his chariot with his wife and started for his capital, followed by his retaining. Along the way, he saw the prosperity of the tranquil seas, beautiful hermitage on both the charming banks of the Saraswati, the river so agreeable to saintly persons.
Okay, the slide.
Now, the slide. As cities are constructed in the modern age with great engineering and architectural craftsmanship, so in days gone by, there were neighborhoods called Rishikulas, where great saintly persons reside. In India, there are still many magnificent places of spiritual understanding. There are many rishis and saintly persons living in nice cottages on the banks of the Ganges and Yamuna, purposes of spiritual cultivation. Shema Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 22, Text 26 purports. Yeah. And 27.
Thank you. Thank you. So, so after Manu and his wife, Shatarupa, delivered their daughter to the Kandarma Muni, now they took permission to leave. And so the monarch, he mounted his chariot with his wife and started for his capital, followed by his retinue. And that means they did not go alone, they went in a convoy. Because it was a marriage ceremony, so we did not expect only he and the wife. He went in a convoy, and he's the king. So definitely when the king moves, some ministers go with him. When a head of state moves, he moves in a convoy. So he left with his retinue. And then along the way, he saw the prosperity of the tranquil seas, the beautiful hermitages on both the charming banks of the Saraswati. So in other words, it means that when the king was coming, he was not observant. He did not see all this because his goal was to find this great sage as described by Lord Vishnu and hand over his daughter. So it is important that if we have a goal, we should become focused on the goal, that we don't see anything else by the side. So Vaibhava Manu and his wife, they brought their daughter, they were directed to bring their daughter to Kadarma Muni, and so that their focus was to find this great sage and hand over their daughter. So when they were coming in, they did not even observe the prosperity of these tranquil seers, the sages. They did not observe. But now that they had discharged their duty of getting their daughter married to Kadarma Muni, they now look left and right, and they could see the prosperity, the beauty of the Rishikulas. And so even in India today, if you go to the Himalayas, along the river Ganga and the river Yamuna, there are these Rishikulas are there. Yogis and sages and devotees, they build simple cottages near the rivers and they live there, performing their austerities, performing their meditation. And you can hear very powerful chants of mantras, of scriptures. The whole atmosphere is charged with spiritual sound vibration, with transcendental sound vibration. So now, Vaibhava Manu is appreciating these Rishikulas. I think we'll read one more verse. Our time is running out. We'll read one more verse. 28 says, Tam ayatam abhipretya brahmavartat prajapatir gita samstuti varditrai pratyuditur praharsitaha. Overjoyed to know of his arrival, his subjects came forth from Brahmavarta to greet their returning Lord with songs, prayers, and musical instruments. I don't have a slide for this. So the purpose says, it is the custom of the citizens of a kingdom's capital, to receive the king when he returns from a tour. There is a similar description when Krishna returned to Dwaraka after the battle of Kurukshetra. At that time, he was received by all classes of citizens at the gate of the city. Formerly, capital cities were surrounded by walls, and there were different gates for regular entrance. Even in Delhi today, there are old gates, and some others, old cities, have side gates where citizens would gather to receive the king. Here also, the citizens of Barishmati, the capital of Brahmavarta, the kingdom of Vaibhava Manu, came nicely dressed to receive the emperor with decorations and musical instruments. So, in the Vedic tradition, when the king returns from his journey, the citizens will come out to receive him. An example is given in Dwaraka. When Krishna returned to Dwaraka after the battle of Kurukshetra, even prostitutes in Dwaraka, they also came out to receive the Lord. So every citizen comes out with a gift to receive the Lord. And the city is nicely decorated with festoons, with garlands, with fresh flowers, fresh grown weeds, with rice mixed with turmeric. So many auspicious things. Yogurt is thrown everywhere as a sign of auspiciousness to receive the king, to receive Krishna in Dwaraka. So similar thing is happening here. 29 to 30 says, Varishmati nama puri sarva sampasa manavita nyapatam yatra romani yagyas yagam vidu vataha kusha kasasta evasam saswat dharita vachasaha rishayo yai parabhavya yagyaknam yagyam ijre. The city of Varishmati, rich in all kinds of wealth, was so called because Lord Vishnu's hair dropped here from his body when he manifested himself as Lord Boa. As he shook his body, this very hair fell and turned into blades of evergreen kusha grass and kasa, another kind of grass used for mats, by means of which the sages worshiped Lord Vishnu after defeating the demons who had interfered with the performance of their sacrifice. So the slide says the speciality of Varishmati Puri, any place directly connected with the Supreme Lord, is called Pitasthana. Varishmati, the capital of Swayambhuva Manu, was excellent, was exalted, not because the city was very rich in wealth and opulence, but because the hairs of Lord Varaha fell at this very spot. These hairs of the Lord later grew as green grass, and the sages used to worship the Lord with that grass after the time when the Lord killed the demon Hiranyaksha. So, Varishmati Puri is a special place where Lord Varaha performed his pastimes. When he came out of the Garbha ocean, he was wet because he has to take the earth out of the Garbha ocean. So he was wet. He entered the water and brought it out. So he was wet. So he was shaking his body to dry himself, and some of his hair fell off from his body. And so those hairs became kusha grass and kasa grass. So the kusha grass that is used for ceremonies is actually the hairs of Varahadev. So Varishmati Puri is noted for kusha grass and kasha grass because the Lord had performed his pastimes there, and therefore the place, any place connected with the Lord is called Pitasthana or Yoga Pit. In Mayapur, we have Yoga Pit. When Lord Chaitanya appeared, the Yoga Pit is the birthplace of the Lord. And here, Pitasthana means where the Lord performed his pastimes. So, Varishmati Puri is a place the Lord performed his pastimes. Now, from 31, 31 says, that Kusha Kasamayam Bari Astriya Bhagavan Manu Ayajat Yagya Purusham Labdas Tanam Yato Bhuvam. Manu spread a seed of Kusha and Kasa and worshiped the Lord, the personality of Godhead, by whose grace he had obtained the rule of the terrestrial globe. So there is an exercise. That's what I want us to look at. There is an exercise that ends this chapter. So we have it on the screen. Text 31 to 37 describes how Swayambhuva Manu worshiped the Lord. Study all the verses and purports and extract 1 point from each verse for personal application and discuss with class how you intend to apply these points in your life. So in this case, we want to give 1 verse to 1 student. 1 verse to 1 student. You study the verse, you read the verse, read the purport, and pick 1 point out of the practice of Swayambhuva Manu. And then you let us, so tomorrow morning, first part of the class is what we're going to do. So I think I will start with Salika Prabhu should take verse 31, Madhavan Prabhu, verse 32, Rasavan Prabhu, verse 33, Kamalasha Prabhu, verse 34, Yaduna Prabhu, verse 35, Jyoti Swarup Prabhu, verse 36, Tamakrishna Prabhu, verse 37. So you Chitraketu Prabhu, you have not escaped. You can share one verse with the last person. 37.
Okay.
Let me see whether there's 38. Let's see whether there's 38. I think there is 38 and 39, but maybe it's not talking about Fayabuva Manu's activities. Yeah, it's not. 38 is not. 39. 39 is not. You can also read 38 and pick one point. Now you can share.
Okay.
The exercise is study one verse, pick out, and study the verse, study the purport, and pick out one verse, one point you want to apply in your spiritual life. And so tomorrow, the first part of the class will be this exercise. Each and every one of you will tell us what you have picked out from the verse and how you want to apply it. It's not going to be about 2 or 3 minutes presentation individually. So on this note, we would bring the class to an end. And then tomorrow we would go to the next chapter after we have finished the exercise. The exercise will take us to the end of this chapter, and then we would go to chapter 23, which is Devahuti's Lamentation. Chapter 23, Devahuti's Lamentation. So any comments or questions? Is everything all right? Can we call it a day?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. So we see everyone tomorrow morning, same time. Jai. Vanchakalpatarabhyascha, Pasanubhyaya
Pasunibhyasi pascha patitanam Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vinde ki jai. Jai Gaura Piminande, all glory to Grace Srivas Vanacari ki jai.